My dad laid hands on my mother, so I took his hands away from him. After 20 years of marriage, my father had perfected the art of domestic terrorism. He'd grip my mother's wrist so tight her fingers would turn white while explaining how she'd loaded the dishwasher wrong, then make her unload and reload it 5 times until she was crying from the pain. He'd stand behind her at the stove, breathing down her neck and criticizing every stir, every seasoning choice, every plated meal while she trembled under his shadow. When she accidentally burned his eggs one morning, he grabbed the hot pan and held her hand inches above it until she promised to be more careful. I watched from the doorway as she cradled her reddened palm, too scared to run cold water over it until he left for work. Everything shattered the morning my mother finally found her courage and placed divorce papers next to his morning beer. He read the first line and his face went from confused to murderous in the span of a heartbeat. "You ungrateful beach," he said it so quietly I almost didn't hear it from the hallway. Then his fist connected with her face and the sound was like a raw steak hitting concrete. She flew backwards into the refrigerator and cried out in pain. My dad's other fist was already raised. "20 years I've put up with you." He punctuated each word with another blow until her face was unrecognizable and her breathing came in wet gasps. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching my mother's beaten face until my legs finally remembered how to move. I ran forward and immediately picked up her phone to call 911. My dad saw me and scoffed before going back to drink his beer. I drove her to the emergency room with towels pressed against her face while she drifted in and out of consciousness. The doctors said her nose was broken in 2 places and she'd need reconstructive surgery. While they wheeled her into the operating room, I sat staring at my own hands, the same hands that had done nothing all these years. I realized I didn't just want to stand on the side because I was scared anymore. I wanted to teach my father a lesson. I thought about my construction crew, men who use their hands to build, not destroy, and made my decision. I called one of my mates, and when he answered, I said, "My father used his hands to put my mother in surgery. I need help taking them away from him." He understood immediately and asked, "Will he be alone on Sunday?" I said yes, and told them exactly what I had in mind. The next 2 days crawled by while I visited my mother and watched the bruises on her face turn from purple to green. Sunday morning, I watched from the kitchen window as my father headed to the garage with his coffee like nothing had happened, like he hadn't destroyed the woman who'd loved him for 20 years. I heard his tools start clanking and texted my crew, "I'm ready." My construction crew arrived 10 minutes later, and we entered through the side door I'd left unlocked. My father looked up from the motorcycle he was working on, grease covering his hands, and actually tried to act tough. "Get out of my garage!" But the foreman grabbed his wrist and twisted until the wrench clattered to the concrete floor. They didn't beat him up like a mannequin. Instead, they dragged him to the corner where he kept his tool collection displayed on pegboards like trophies. I picked up his favorite hammer while the crew held him still, and then brought it down hard on my dad's right hand, pressed against the concrete wall. The sound of breaking bones echoed through the garage as he screamed, but no one came to help. "That's for Mom's face," I said, then grabbed his left hand. They held it flat against his rolling tool chest, while I systematically crushed each finger with precise swings. "Now you'll never make another fist." He never went to the police, because what would he even say? My son broke my fingers because I broke his mother? Instead, he quietly signed the divorce papers.